Welcome to Real Judaism with Rabbi Ari Klapper. Unfiltered wisdom for Jewish life.
Okay, we are here starting Chelik Dalid. Wow, I can't believe we made it here. Chelik Dalid, Les La Migarma Klum. Perek Aleph. This is a new section. The truth of the matter is that this is something that we have discussed. We discussed this way back in Chelik Aleph and Chelik Beis, but he's going to make this a much more of a topic over here. That's what Chelik Dalid is, this idea of Les La Migarma Klum, that Shabbos is, and not just Shabbos, but Klal Yisrael is a reflection of the Rebbeinu Shalom. That's what it is. That's what Shabbos is, and that's what Klal Yisrael is. We are here to reflect the Rebbeinu Shalom in the world. And this is going to be built up. It's not going to be each topic, each parak is going to be building off the next. So we're not, as opposed to the previous parak, where each parak was a different topic, bringing out a different idea in Shabbos. We spoke about eating on Shabbos. We spoke about the Tfilas Musaf, and Mincha. We spoke about sleeping on Erev Shabbos, Kabbalah Shabbos, all different topics related to Shabbos. Here, this is one big topic. The idea behind just being a reflection to bring HaKadosh Baruch Hu into the world, and different aspects of this topic. That's what the entire Chelik Dalid is going to be. It's not such a long Chelik. It's less than 30 pages, and it's only 6 prakim, but it gives a whole different perspective on Yiddishkeit and what Shabbos has to do with Yiddishkeit, and what we as Jews, what are we supposed to be doing? What is our purpose here in the world? Obviously, as individuals, we all have our own specific purpose, but as a klal, as a nation, what are we supposed to be doing here in the world? So here we're going to starting Perek Aleph, Atem Kruim Odom. You are called man. What does this mean? Nekuda miuchedes yesh be'inyan Shabbos kodesh. Ma sheyesod mitzvos Shabbos hu shvisa u'menucha. There's a very interesting and special point about Shabbos. What is the foundation of the mitzvah of Shabbos? That we should rest. We shouldn't do any work. What's the reason why we are resting? Shabbos v'yinafash. Because the pasuk says that Hashem rested. Hainu sheshvisaseinu minuchaseinu hema lidmot elav yisbarach. Our resting is in order to be like Hashem, right? We discussed how there's a mitzvah, Allah b'drochav, you should be like Hashem in your midos. Just like Hashem has Rahmanus, you should have Rahmanus. Hashem is Gomel Chasadim, you should be Gomel Chasadim. So we should be like Hashem. Hashem rested. Again, what does that mean? Hashem rested. He stopped his work. He stopped creation. Even though we know that B'chol Yom, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Mechadish B'chol Yom Maaseh Bereishis. HaKadosh Baruch Hu keeping the world running every second, only because of his Ratzon. But yet there's this concept that Hashem stopped. When we are copying Hashem, we are stopping. When it comes to other mitzvahs like tefillin, there's such an idea, Hashem wears tefillin. What does that mean? Obviously, it's not the same tefillin that we wear, besides the fact that tefillin are physical things. But even the parshias, it says, when it says that Hashem wears tefillin, are different than the parshias of our tefillin. When we wear tefillin, it's not because Hashem wears tefillin. That's not the reason, because we need to copy Hashem. But with regards to Shabbos, this is a major part of the reason behind the mitzvah, is because Hashem did it, we're doing it. It's part of the foundations of the mitzvah. And through understanding this idea, we can understand a very important idea behind Shabbos, and also another idea with regard to what we discussed back in Chelik Aleph, the idea of malchus. So here we go. Hamishkefes Mesoicha Dimiut Ha'omdot Lenegda. We already discussed way back in Chelek Aleph, you can go review those shurim, that we compared malchus to a mirror, that it reflects back whatever is standing opposite it. Moshel ze nachon hu me'oid ala malchus. This is a very, very good moshel for malchus. Shegavar nirmaz lanu mishal zeh mimenu yizbarach v'maisa bereishis. Shezeh mamish mitzvos hayareach keneged Hashem. We can see this idea of the mare, of this mirror, from Bereshis, from the Hashem's creation of the world, the way He created the moon opposite the sun. We know that the moon does not have any light of its own. The moon only reflects the light of the sun. And if you have a full moon, it can actually be bright. Unfortunately, in places where we live, we can't see it as well. And the reason is because the lighting in the street kind of takes away from that light. But if you're ever in a place where there is, a mountaintop somewhere, or sometimes upstate New York, or in camp where there's places where there's no lights, you can see it's bright. The moon is very bright. I wouldn't say it's like it's daytime, but it's very, very bright. It's reflecting the light of the sun. We brought this before with regards to Kiddush Lavana, that the moon reflects malchus shamayim. That's what it is. Just like the moon reflects the sun, that's the mashal for us reflecting Hashem. Kena Shabbos hi malchus. Shederech ha-Shabbos mekabel pnei Hashchina. Because we've already said that Shabbos is the gateway that HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes in. It is bringing HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Shechina, into the world. That's how we see it through Shabbos. Just like the moon reflects the light of the sun, so too Shabbos reflects the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The same thing with us, with the Jewish people. B'klolos hi malchus shamayim. In general, that's what we're supposed to be doing. We are malchus shamayim. Shederech am Yisrael roim kavoy baruch ha'olam. We are the ones who are supposed to be bringing the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu into this world. That's what our point. That's what our purpose as a nation. That is our purpose, to bring the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu into this world. It's very interesting. A little while ago, it came up in one of the magazines, but this is something that's already been mefursam for a long time, and that is that Hitler, Yamach Shemo v'Zichro, was a Bucky in this Indian. If you read from his works, I don't recommend reading it, but those who read from his works can see that he understood the Jewish people very, very well. He understood that the purpose of the Jewish people was to bring morality into the world. And that's what he hated. He couldn't stand it. If there wouldn't be the Jewish people, we'd be able to do whatever we want. We got to get rid of those Jews, because the Jews bring morality. The Jews make you feel guilty about all those nasty things that you want to do. And they tell you, you can't do that. That's not moral. That's not okay. You can't do those things. And that's the way we understood. Hey, somebody understood. Somebody gave us a smack and said, you're supposed to be moral. That's your purpose. And that's why we have to destroy you. But at least let's understand very well, that is our purpose in the world, to reflect the Rebbeinu Shalom. That when a person sees a Jew, he sees Hashem. He sees this is how a person should be in this world. Amnam be'emes moshel hamare hu moshel b'inyanim domimim. When it comes to this moshel of a mirror, so it's a moshel of a doimim, of something that is an inanimate. How one inanimate object reflects another inanimate object. Right? The mirror reflects the exact measurements of whatever is standing opposite it. Orcho, its height, rochbo, its width, bitzuraso, and its shape. But if what's standing opposite the mirror is some kind of plant, or chai, or some kind of living being, do we see through the mirror? Do we see the power that's inherent in something that's growing, something that's alive? When you look in the mirror, and you see that plant or that animal, you see in it its essence of its life. Shamara atmo hi chayfet doimim. What's viewed in the mirror is not alive. It's reflecting something that's alive, but it itself is not alive in the mirror. A mirror, which in itself doesn't have life, can't truly reflect life. In the mirror is just a reflection. You see a reflection, but you don't see the real life. Only something that in itself is really alive can bring out those kochos of life. A mirror is not alive. And since a mirror is not alive, it cannot bring out the essence of what a live thing is. This is one of the reasons for what Chazal say, Eved melech kemelech, that the servant of a king is like a king. Keven she'inyin ha'avdus hu mash ha'eved moitzi lo'or u'lapoel et ritzoinosav shel hamelech. Because the servant, he brings out the desires of the king. Which means the king says, I want this done, and the servant does it. Im kein eich yuchol ha'eved l'shamesh et adoino u'lahoitzi et ritzonosav el hapoel im lo yeh bo atmo mignune hamalchus. Because the king wants to be able to accomplish all the things that he wants, he has to give the power to the servant to accomplish that. He has to give the authority to the servant, to his, whatever it is, his ministers. You now have the authority to do this. So if, for example, a king says, I want this person to be punished, that means the person he's telling says, you now have the authority to do that. You don't have the authority to do it. But I am giving you that authority because I want something to be done. If somebody else doesn't have that authority, so then the rachon, the desire of the king, will never be fulfilled. Because the king might have the ability to do it, but the one he's instructing doesn't. So if the one that he's instructing doesn't have that ability, then what am I supposed to do? I don't have the ability. He can do it, but I can't do it. No, so the king has the ability to give over that power to the one who he instructs. And that's why that one who he instructs is like a melech. Just like the melech has the ability to punish somebody, now that person has the ability to punish the same person. And that's what it means, Eved melech melech. He gets the power of the melech. Let's say the servant who's in charge, who is responsible to make sure that the king's room is set up right. His clothing is a certain way, and his food and his drink, and everything is done specifically for him. There is no way for the servant to be able to fulfill this tachlis that he was instructed to do, unless he himself had the authority to do these things. Having the authority itself makes him a certain level of malchus. I now have the power to do something. You don't have authority to do this, so then you don't have the power. I'm sorry, I'm not authorized to do this. I'm giving you the authorization. That means the king is giving you that power from his own power. Certainly is true. If you have to do something much bigger than just make sure he has clothing and his food is prepared. The king has to give you these powers. You have to be ready and accepting of these powers in order to bring them to fruition. That means that the one who's reflecting the desire of the king is not just the measurements, it's not just the physical qualities. You're actually giving that person the power to do that. And based on this, one of the foundations of what it means a melech, a malchus, of a kingdom, she'amelech doime b'mitzius el ha'am. There has to be a similarity between the king himself and the nation. V'chein perush balei hadikduk hakadmoinim et hahevdel bein melech leMoshe. This is brought out by the balei dikduk, the ones who were very careful with words and learned up what the meanings of words. What is the difference between a melech and a Moshe? A melech, literally translated, is a king, and a Moshe is translated as a ruler, one who rules, or maybe a dictator. What's the difference between a king and a ruler, or a king and a dictator? What's the difference? Shamoishe yochel limshol al kol mitzios shehi, aber melech lo yikra melech ela im yimloich al adoimelo. A Moshe, one who rules, can rule over anything. He can rule over the fish. He can rule over everything. But a king is only called a king if he rules over things that are similar to him. Amru Chazal, this is what Chazal tell us in the Gemara in Chagiga. Melech shebechayos ari, melech shebehemos sure, melech shebeoifos nesher. The king of the wild animals is the lion, and the king of the domesticated animals is the ox, and the king of the birds is the eagle. In other words, there's not one king over all three. Each one has a king over it that's similar to it. So, behemos and chayos, wild animals and domesticated animals, are different breeds. Yes, they're both animals, but they are different breeds, and therefore each one has their own king. And the same thing with birds. The birds are not the same thing as animals, and therefore they need also their own king. The king of the birds has to be a bird. The king of the wild animals has to be a wild animal, and same thing with domesticated animals. So we see over here, we can't say that the lion is the king of the domesticated animals because he's not a behemoth. A chaya is not a behemoth, and therefore you can't say he's the king over the domesticated animals. And the reason for this, the reason for this is because the essence of a king is what he takes from the inside of what it means, the nation. He is coming from the nation. They see in the king, the nation sees in the king themselves. They see he's representing us, right? And just to make a little bit of a dimion to nowadays, we have a democracy. You're voting for somebody you feel represents you. He's representing me. He's representing my values. I can identify with him. We're choosing him to rule over us because we can identify with him, with who he is. Because we can see within him us. Maybe we can see this as a side point here. It says by Esther Amalka that Esther didn't tell Achashverosh where she was from, but every nation said she's one of us. Every nation said, no, she's from our nation. They were able to identify with her. They were able to see within her that she was representing them. And that's why they say, it must be from us. It must be from our nation. Because that's the type of leader that you want. You want a leader who's somebody's going to say, that the people are going to look up to and say, yes, this is one of us. This is one of ours. Without that, they're not considered to be a king and a nation. If you bring a king from a different nation, so they don't identify with each other, so there's not gonna be a good feeling in the country. And the king also not necessarily going to care about them. And that's why the king of the wild animals is the lion, because he himself is a chaya. He himself is a wild animal. What happens is when you have somebody who is an elitist and they become a leader, they look down on the nation. They think the nation is just a bunch of I'm a rotzim, and I'm the best. And there's a disconnect. There's a disconnect between the leader and the nation, and people don't like that. Well, he thinks he's better than us. He thinks we'll show him, right? There's a famously during the French Revolution, right? During the French Revolution, a little back history, that one of the things that was happening is that people were starving. The people were starving, and they knew that the royalty had food. I believe the story was with the Queen Marie Antoinette, when she was told there's no food. They don't have food. They don't have bread. She was so disconnected from the people. She had no connection with them all. When she heard that they didn't have bread, so she said, "They don't have bread. Let them eat cake." Well, lady, you have no concept of what's happening in the street. You have no concept of what the common person is dealing with whatsoever. And that's why, in the end, well, let's just say there wasn't too many French monarchs after that, right? Because there's you are not representing us. That's you. A king and his nation have to be together. V'lachein melech shv'chayis aryeh. Oh, this is. V'koilo bezoicho kol oitzmas koicham shel klal hachayos. He has within him all the power of all the wild animals. V'lazeh yikra melech hachayos, and that's why the lion can be called the king of the chayos, of the wild animals. V'chein kol hachayos shemishtakev mitoicham koyach malchus shel aryeh. And all the other wild animals can see also that there's a little bit of us in him. We can feel connected. But that's only because you see that there's a connection between the king and the people, and those, right? The king and his nation. But he will not be able to rule over a kingdom that's not his. There has to be that connection. So we're going to have to stop over here, but just to put it into perspective, this is going to, like I said in the beginning, this is something that is going to take time to develop. We're trying to put into perspective that when we, Klal Yisrael and Shabbos, are reflecting a Kadosh Baruch Hu, what we're doing is, and it has to be done in a way that we can see, we identify with each other. Klal Yisrael is the Tzelem Elokim. We have a little bit of a Kadosh Baruch Hu in us. And the Kadosh Baruch Hu identifies with us. We identify with him. And that's why we are able to reflect him. That's why we're able to get the koichos. Not only that it's a mirror and it looks the same on the outside, but the koichos on the inside, the power that we have, that Klal Yisrael has on the inside, is something that's reflecting a Kadosh Baruch Hu too. As Hashem, we're going to continue with it next week.
Thank you for joining Real Judaism, where we explore Torah's wisdom for real life. Created by J Foundations and produced by Eli Podcast Productions. Find more episodes at realjudaism.org and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.